What's up, everybody? Welcome in another edition Refuse to Lose podcast. Brady Farkas with you from Roundtable Sports. Podcast comes out usually every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, but it is the playoffs. The schedule is scattered. We now know who the Mariners will be playing in the American League Division Series. It will be the Detroit Tigers. After the Tigers beat the Cleveland Guardians in Game 3 of the Wild Card Series on Thursday. And look, the Tigers' offense was dormant through the first 2.5 games of this series, but they end up winning it 6-3, get a 4-run seventh in this Game 3 on Thursday. And again, they will advance to take on the Mariners coming up in the division series. It begins on Saturday at T-Mobile Park. I will be there, as will my cohort, Taryn Kowach. We'll talk about the Tigers here. We'll talk about the matchup. We'll talk about what we like. We'll talk about what we don't like. Again, I will be in Seattle. Flight leaves very early tomorrow morning. I cannot wait to get there and bring you all the best coverage along with Taryn. Buster Olney is going to stop by on this podcast as well. He's going to be with us towards the end of the podcast. We spoke to Buster earlier in the day. Buster is covering Red Sox Yankees right now for ESPN, but the information is still good, whether live or taped. I'm going to start the show with some personal stuff here. Actually, it's just some work/personal stuff. Then we'll get into it. So thanks for joining us. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're watching on X, or if you're, listening to the podcast after the fact, we appreciate you wherever you find our work. Without further ado, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
Got my guy Nick in here supporting, much appreciated. So let me just give a little background and a little update. I did this about a month ago, but I want to kind of tie everything in together. And I promise we'll get to the Mariners here momentarily. I get asked a lot, what is the best way for us to support you? Like people asking, Brady, how can we support you? How can we support Taryn? And my answer is always read our articles. That is always my answer. And let me kind of explain to you what has happened to journalism since I've been doing this kind of stuff for the last 3 years or so. It used to be 3 years ago when I started that I could write a story and I didn't even really have to promote it. You would go searching for something. You would find my story on Google. Hopefully it would be near the top and you would read it. And that would happen for everybody around the country that was looking for Mariners content or baseball content that I wrote. And I was paid based on how many people read my stories. And in some ways, that's a little scary. But in other ways, it's pretty cool because if a lot of people read, you make more money. So, and that was kind of the methodology for a lot of people who do what I do for a long time. Write your stories, write as many stories as you can, and let the readers go find them on Google and then just boom, right? Like that's how you get paid. And that's how people find your work. Over the last year or so, it's become really, really hard to do that. Okay, really hard to do that. Google is different. AI is different. You type in something, AI gives you an answer. Now you don't need to read my work. You type in something on Chat GPT, you never even see my work, right? Because AI has given you the answer. So that old methodology no longer works. So that is a large reason why Taryn and I left Sports Illustrated, or the Sports Illustrated group, right? We were Mariners on SI for a long time. That's part of the reason why we left, because it just got too hard. The old way didn't really work anymore. So we've linked on with Roundtable Sports, which is a new company, which truly is trying to, one, bring the best sports content that they can, and two, trying to help save journalists like Taryn and I, right? Like point blank, they're trying to help save our business, and by extension, those of us who are in our business. So leads me to kind of the original question. What can you do to help us? All of Taryn and my written work is at Mariners on Roundtable. So if you Google Seattle Mariners Roundtable Sports, you will see our work. If you Google Brady Farkas Roundtable Sports, you will see our work. So reading our work is the number one thing you can do, right? Going to our website is the number one thing you can do. I know it's easy to go to Google and type something in. I know it's easy to go to ChatGPT and type something in, right? But we are giving you our work for free, right? There's no paywall. There's no subscription. So what we need you to do is go to our website directly and find our work, because we can't rely on Google to send you to our work anymore. And the second thing you can do to help us is follow our site. Okay. If you see in there, again, totally free, you'll see a little button that says join. It'll say join our community. It'll just say join, actually. Just join. And all that means is that you're kind of a member of our fan group. You're not being inundated with spam. It doesn't cost anything, but it just helps us kind of bump up our reader base, right? We hope to have as many Mariners fans as we can in our community. And then the other goal, the final piece to all of this, is in the bottom, underneath all the stuff that Taryn and I write, you will see a part or a portion of our website that says the Mariners community. And that is where Taryn and I will post short things, small things, maybe things that aren't worth being a full story, maybe things that are breaking news. And it kind of brings back the old style of doing things, the old style of blogging, right? There's a chat room feature, not so much a chat room, but a message board feature, I should say, right? I post, like yesterday, I posted a picture of the Mariners at the Kraken game. And I said, hey, who can identify all the Mariners that are here? And then the goal would be that a bunch of people could go and try to get in. Other people can post things that they want, right? You saw something interesting. You have a thought about the Mariners. You can post it there. And it's kind of the sports bar setting, sports bar feel, right? Everybody is welcome. Everybody has an idea. Everybody has a talking point, and we're all doing it together. And how does that benefit me and Taryn? It's pretty simple. If you come to our site and read our stuff and engage with us, we hope that you never have to go to Google in order to find us. We just want to be in your Mariners routine. And there's a lot of great people who cover the Mariners. I'm not asking you not to support them, right? The other podcasters, the other written people, support them too. A lot of them are my friends or people I've gotten to know this year. I want you to support them also. But just finding all of us on Google is a lot harder than it was even a year ago. So go to our site, Mariners on Roundtable, find our work, click our work, support our community, follow our community, join our community, write in our community, engage with us. We want to be a one-stop shop for you. I hope that you don't need to go anywhere else to find Mariners content. I know you will, and I'm telling you to support them too. But I hope that we have every single thing that you could want. So Mariners on Roundtable, that's how you support Taryn and I. Read our work, click on our work, support our stories, share our stories, join our community, interact and engage. And of course, as always, listen to this podcast. I know I already played it, but now we're really into it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
All right. Mariners are going to play the Tigers starting Saturday. I will be there. Games 1 and 2. We still don't know the timing yet on game 1. We do know that game 2 will be at 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern. It's going to make for a bit of a later night, going to make for a bit of later travel going to Detroit for game 3. I imagine this is being done because of the Seahawks game, right? Seahawks game is at 1. Now everybody can watch both games. I imagine it's going to be hell on earth when it comes to traffic and public transit, but hopefully I think the plan is that the Seahawks crowd will go there early. The Mariners crowd will go there later. The Seahawks crowd will be leaving as the Mariners crowd is coming, and that will free up the roadways and that will free up public transit. That I think is the plan. Either way, that's Sunday. Saturday, we don't know just yet. What is good about playing the Tigers? I told you that I would rather play Cleveland. Initially, I wanted to play the Tigers. Then I changed it to Cleveland. Well, here we are playing the Tigers. What is good about playing Detroit? Let's start here, right? They had a terrible second half of the season. And just because they won 2 of 3 against Cleveland on the road, it does not change that. They had a terrible second half of the season. They were the best team in baseball through June, and they absolutely tanked it from July 1st on. They blew 15 and a half games in their division. They blew 10-plus games in their division from September 1st on. We thought what the Mariners did last year with the Astros was embarrassing. This is rewriting the word embarrassing. The stench of that, the failure of that, the doubt of that does not go away. So playing the Tigers gives you you're playing a team that has been absolutely reeling for 3.5 months. And that doesn't change just because they won this series against Cleveland. What else is good? Tarik Skubal cannot go until game 2. Tarik Skubal is the best pitcher in the American League. He cannot go until game 2. So that means that you have a decided advantage in game 1, and you better be able to take it. Because if you don't take it, then your back is immediately against the wall knowing you're going to face Skubal in game 2. But since he can't go, you have a chance to do something you have a chance to set yourself up in a great way. It's your number 1 or your rested starter against probably their number 4 and a beat-up bullpen before you see Tarik Skubal. You have to take advantage of that. So the fact that you can't see their ace until game 2 is absolutely a good thing. Number 3, the Tigers use the bullpen a lot, and their bullpen is gassed at this point. Yes, there's going to be a day off, but because Skubal's not there in game 1, actually there's two days off, but because Skubal's not there to save the bullpen until game 2, you're going to see a lot of guys who have pitched 2-3 days in a row coming up in game 1. So again, actually, it's just going to be 1 day off. I got my travel schedule is throwing everything off. So there will be 1 day off for the Tigers bullpen, but there's a lot of guys who are tired in that Tigers bullpen. In game 1, you have a chance to take advantage of that again before Skubal comes to save the day. What is bad about playing the Tigers? Oh, by the way, the Mariners also swept the Tigers in Detroit. That's a good thing. What is bad about playing the Tigers? First and foremost, they use the bullpen a lot, right? In game 1, it's a benefit that the Mariners are going to see a tired Tigers bullpen. But in general, A.J. Hinch's aggressiveness with the bullpen is absolutely going to be a problem for the M's. He is going to play matchups. He is going to play matchups early, and he is going to put Dan Wilson in a very uncomfortable position. So, I mean, look, you love Dominic Canzone, right? So what happens when they go to the bullpen with a lefty in the 4th to face Canzone, and now you've pulled him for Mitch Garver, and then Garver gets to hit in the 4th, but then in the 7th, Garver's back up with a righty there, and you want to pinch hit for him with Luke Raley, so then they go to it's going to be like that, and it's going to be like that early. They pulled Casey Mize in the 4th inning the other day. Right? Their starters are going to go 3, 4, 4 1/3, whatever, and then it's going to go to the bullpen, and he is going to work the matchups to his advantage, and Dan Wilson is going to be forced to be on his heels, and you're going to end up with situations you don't want. You're going to end up with Dom Canzone against a lefty in a key spot. You're going to end up with Victor Robles against a righty, which isn't as bad as that, but you're going to end up with Raley against a lefty or Garver against a righty, and you're just going to end up in a position you don't want to be in, or you're going to have taken out a bat you want late. You will have taken them out early. It's going to be a huge nightmare and a huge frustration, and it's going to be a huge problem. And so when I was thinking about the good reasons to play Detroit, that one didn't come to me right away. It should have, because that's at the top of the list for what's wrong with playing this team. Secondly, the Tigers are loaded with lefty hitters, and the Mariners do not have any left-handed starters, and they really don't have many left-handed relievers. If you paid attention to that series against Cleveland, A.J. Hinch pinch hit for his best player, Riley Green. Why? Because he does not hit lefties well. The Mariners can only play the Gabe Spire and Caleb Ferguson card so many times because they don't have it. Cleveland had 4 lefties in the bullpen. The Mariners have 2. I don't think you're going to see Taylor Saucedo here to be 3. So Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, these guys who are good hitters against righties are going to be able to stay in the lineup consistently. Now, You can play it. So if you play the Spire card in the 5th to get Green out of the game, great. You no longer have Spire for the 8th or the 7th or whatever. That's going to be a problem as well. Cleveland had the ability to neutralize those lefties. The Mariners really don't. So the matchups here are going to be a problem for the Mariners. The pitching matchups and the hitting matchups. You can get in. Nick says, different Nick. We got multiple Nicks in here. Says, bring on Skubal. You have to beat aces to advance. Of course you do. Of course you do. But you know what Cleveland doesn't have? They don't have Tarek Skubal. You know what Cleveland doesn't have? They don't have Garrett Crochet. You know what Cleveland doesn't have? They don't have Max Fried. You're going to see aces in order to try to get to the World Series. I don't need to see Tarek Skubal if I didn't have to. Now I'm going to see him, and I'll see him in Game 2, and I'll probably see him in Game 5 should it get there, and we should all hope that it does not. We should all hope that it does not. Messenger, Joe, I don't know what platform Joe's listening on, but Joe reminds me of what I said earlier in the week as a good reason to play the Tigers, and he's right. I did say this. The Tigers have been on the road for 2 weeks now. They were in Atlanta in the end of the season. They were in Boston near the end of the season. They've been in Cleveland here. I think they were in Cleveland again, if I'm remembering correctly. Or they were at home against Atlanta. Then they were in Cleveland. Then they were in Boston. Now they're in Cleveland. It's going to be 2 weeks on the road for this team. That's a disadvantage for anybody. So put that one in your pro Mariners cap. But the negatives, they are there. The matchup is going to be difficult. I know the Mariners are favored. I know Jeff Passan told ESPN Seattle, 710 Seattle Sports, that he thinks the Mariners have a roster built to go to the World Series. They do. And he thinks really they shouldn't get much resistance in this series. They should win it. But they absolutely are going to have their work cut out for them. Make no mistake, the Tigers are going to present the Mariners some problems. They are going to present the Mariners some problems. All right. My biggest question for Dan Wilson is, how aggressive is he going to be with his bullpen? That is the number one question that I have about Dan Wilson. It is, we will not know the answer until we get to Game 1. We know that A.J. Hinch is going to be extra aggressive with his bullpen. We know that bullpenning is a verb when it comes to the playoffs. We saw Alex Cora pull his starter in the 3rd inning of Game 2 of the Wild Card Series between the Red Sox and the Yankees. An established starter pulled in the 3rd inning. So people go wild in the playoffs here. What is Dan Wilson going to do? Now, I asked Buster about this coming up a little later, but I actually think it's going to be in reverse, to be honest with you. I think Dan Wilson is going to extend his starters as far as they can go. I do not think you're going to see Dan Wilson pull guys in the 3rd inning or after 4 1/3. 2 reasons. 1, Dan Wilson is old school and he trusts his best pitchers. And 2, I think he rightly doesn't trust his bullpen to cover 5-6 innings. I just don't think that Dan Wilson trusts his bullpen to do that. And you know what? I think he's justified. I think we are going to be far closer to being mad at Dan for leaving a guy in too long than we are pulling him too early. It's just how I see it. Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Luis Castillo, Brian Wu, we'll get to him in a minute. But I think Dan Wilson's going to leave his guys out there more than take his guys out early. I mean, the plan here is get your starter through 6, and then 7, 8, 9 is Bizardo, Brash, and Munoz, and then Spire where he's needed in these pockets of lefties or getting these lefties to get pinch hit for. That is the plan. If you can get through 6 and get it to Bizardo, Brash, and Munoz with Spire in there and all available, that's the win for the Mariners. It does not become a win if you're pulling your starter in the 4th and going to Gabe Spire and then trying to cover times where you end up having to see Carlos Vargas or someone who is more lower leverage. Vargas would be mid-leverage, but the biggest question I have is how aggressive will Dan Wilson be with the bullpen? And by extension, kind of how aggressive will he be in letting his starters go long? On that note, the bullpen, it worries me. The bullpen worries me. I have said this to you for 2 months. I said it on Tuesday's podcast or Monday's podcast, and it's not, my feeling is not going away here. You have seen over the course of even these playoffs, and as I talk to you now, the wild card round is not over, but the bullpens will win or lose you games. Look at game 1 of the Red Sox-Yankees series, right? You saw the minute that Aaron Boone takes out Max Fried, the Red Sox get 2 against Luke Weaver. They had an insurance run in the 9th. You saw Aroldis Chapman load the bases with nobody out. Now, he gets out of it, but that's not a game that I want to play very often. The Cubs in game 1 of their series retired 14 straight out of the bullpen, setting a team record in the playoffs. Like, bullpens win and lose you games in October, and I am worried about how the Mariners' bullpen stacks up right now. I've already told you there's only 4 guys in there that I think the Mariners trust. Brash, Bizzardo, Munoz, Spire. That's it. If Dan Wilson was given truth serum, I don't think he wants to pitch Carlos Vargas or Emerson Hancock in this series. I don't think he does. He only wants to pitch those 4 if he can. Caleb Ferguson, if he has to, in a matchup against a lefty. So that's where the bullpen is at. It is short, but also I just think the bullpen is coming in with a great deal of questions behind it, right? Edward Bizzardo, 3 consecutive non-clean outings to finish the regular season. Did not get through 1 inning in either of his last 2. Oh, by the way, the inter-squad scrimmage the Mariners had on Wednesday, and I know it was a scrimmage, but it's a trend now. Bizzardo gives up a home run to Cal Raleigh. A lot of people have done that, but Bizzardo has to be able to get out dynamic hitters in the playoffs, and it was now then that he also struggled to do that even in a scrimmage. So that's 4 consecutive appearances where Bizzardo has struggled. Oh, by the way, Munoz, 2 walks in his final appearance on Saturday night, and then a double to Kike Hernandez, 2 walks, and I believe a wild pitch in the inter-squad scrimmage on Wednesday. That is also a problem. You cannot walk the tightrope in October and get away with it very often. If there's only 4 guys down there that you can trust, as I said on Monday, they've got to be nails, and I am worried about them not being able to be nails. If there is one thing that can derail this team, it is the bullpen. Of course, a starter can have a bad day. Of course, a lineup can go cold. All of those things can and do happen. But if you ask me the biggest problem point for this roster in the playoffs, it is the bullpen. Tex wonders, I wonder what Hancock's role will be if he has one. He's not going to have one, right? Here is the role of Emerson. Actually, I would say this. Here is the role of Emerson Hancock. The Mariners will have 2 long guys available in the pen, Hancock and Bryce Miller. Okay, those are the 2 long guys. One of them has to be on standby for if Brian Wu does not keep progressing. If Brian Wu cannot pitch, they're going to need one of them to be on standby. Obviously, you would prefer that to be Bryce Miller. So if they can go the weekend in Seattle without burning Bryce Miller, I can add him into the bullpen guys that they probably trust, right? So I guess we're at 4+. 4+ Miller. So if they need to bring in Bryce Miller for an inning or for a strikeout or for one batter, I believe they will do it. But if they can avoid using Bryce Miller in the early part of the series and save him to be Brian Wu insurance policy, then they would prefer to do that. If they think they can do that, or they can do that, then Emerson Hancock's role is only long reliever if somebody's getting shelled. I do not believe they will bring in Emerson Hancock into a high leverage situation in the 7th inning if they can avoid it. If they can avoid it, that's just not something they're going to do. I would be willing to bet a lot that Emerson Hancock is there to be long relief if somebody is getting shelled. Like worst case scenario stuff, somebody's getting shelled and Emerson Hancock is in the 3rd inning. If they can avoid using Bryce Miller, I think he would be the Brian Wu insurance and Emerson Hancock is the everybody else insurance. If they have to use Bryce Miller early, then maybe Emerson Hancock can help lead a bullpen game, but that would be like really dastardly stuff if the Mariners had to go with that. On all of that, I am getting worried about Brian Wu. I am getting nervous about Brian Wu. I want to shout out Tim Booth of the Seattle Times, who had this audio from earlier today at the inter-squad scrimmage or pre-inter-squad scrimmage. Brian Wu threw off the mound today, threw a bullpen, did not pitch in the inter-squad scrimmage, but threw off the mound for the first time since we saw him that Friday night in Houston, September 19th. I was there. Been nearly 2 weeks at this point. He had not pitched off a mound since. We had been under the impression Brian Wu could start game 1 of this series. Not going to happen. Then we heard he was trending towards game 2. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. Then it's looking like Brian Wu is, all right, probably going to be in line for game 3. And now I'm not sure that's going to happen. Hopefully a week from now we'll be in a better spot. Well, a week from now, we'd be getting ready for game 5. So if we're hoping for a better spot heading into game 5, that it sounds like maybe Brian Wu not going to pitch in game 1 through 4. He's either putting a really good poker face on, or he's being refreshingly honest, but making me nervous. Like those quotes there, those words, they make me scared that we're not going to see Brian Wu in the series. I mean, I hope that we can, but there was nothing in there that said, I feel great, I'm ready for the ball whenever Dan calls my name. There was take it day by day, felt good, positive, felt like a guy who's trying to downplay things. Now, I've seen a lot of people say online that Brian Wu is fine. I have believed that Brian Wu would be fine. But when he says, take it day by day, I hope we're in a better spot in a week, that is something that absolutely does make me nervous. Like them not words that elicit a whole lot of confidence in me at this point. So when I get to Seattle, there's a workout tomorrow. We'll see what we can ask. We'll see who's available. We'll see what the prognosis is, or what the diagnosis is, or what the recovery is like. Like that's now the most important thing for Brian Wu is how does he recover and how does he feel tomorrow? That's the next box to check. So we will have to see. We will have to see. I'll be excited to get there and see maybe what the new report is 24 hours from now. But those comments were not particularly endearing to me. All right. Earlier today, I had an opportunity to speak with Buster Olney of ESPN. Buster is always with us on Thursday. Spoke with Buster pre-Guardians Tigers game. So I do have kind of an on-the-fence 50-50 question about the wild card series as it relates to the Mariners. So I know that the series is over. The series was not over when Buster and I spoke. Buster is working Red Sox Yankees right now. So it's short. It's actually a short interview. Buster was really like, he was nice enough to make time for us today, given he was about to go work a game 3. So it is a short interview, only about 9 minutes or so, but there's a lot of good stuff that you need to hear about Buster's thoughts on the Mariners. So I started off by asking, Buster, how are you?
I'm scrambling. I'm getting ready to go cover Game 3 of the series between the Red Sox and the Yankees. trying to learn as much as I can about these two young starting pitchers are going to go in this game. But yeah, fired up. Early playoffs have been fantastic.
Mariners are fired up as well. They'll be on the field on Saturday in ALDS Game 1. Buster, by the time this comes out, we will have a winner between Cleveland and Detroit, and we will know who the Mariners are playing. So let me ask you this. If it's Detroit, what is your read on the Tigers?
That they are still digging out of that late season slide they have. Like, it feels like this is a team that not only is trying to survive and get through in the postseason, but also trying to regain some of the confidence. And we're seeing A.J. Hinch, their manager, just absolutely, to pull every lever, including, as you saw in Game 2 of that series, pinch hitting for Riley Green, who's their best player, other than Tarek Skubal. They are really struggling to score runs. And we'll see if they can, not only advance, but get their mojo back. And
if it's Cleveland, what's your thought on them?
They have a lot more pitching depth. They have an excellent bullpen. We've talked about how San Diego probably is the best bullpen of all the playoff teams. I think Cleveland probably is the second best bullpen of all the playoff teams. They got a lot of young guys, including their center fielder who started in Game 2, making his major league debut in the playoffs. I think that gives you a real portal into what Cleveland is playing with as we come down the stretch.
Buster, anytime the Mariners make the playoffs, there is an element of I'm just happy to be here. But given the way that it's set up, they have the first round bye, and given the draw, it feels like there should be more than that. It feels like there's real expectations to do something special here.
There have been times when it has absolutely felt like the Mariners are a team that is a middleweight playing up against heavyweights. In this postseason, they are one of the heavyweights. Probably the Yankees are the other one. When you're talking about where they are with the rotation, the names in their lineup, an MVP candidate in Cal Raleigh, an MVP candidate in Julio Rodriguez in some years. They absolutely should be favored in the division series, whoever they play.
I'm curious about the pitching decisions that Dan Wilson's going to make. We don't have them as we talk right now. Looks like Brian Wu is on track for Game 3, coming back from that right pec inflammation. Game 1 and 2, Buster, I don't know. Logan Gilbert and George Kirby are hot. Luis Castillo is the veteran. He's been much better at home versus on the road. Maybe they want to throw him early because of that. How much do those decisions about like home and away splits come into play here when you're thinking about who to start in games 1 or 2?
Well, unless you have a situation where you have a particular type of pitcher, right? If it's a fly ball pitcher, you probably want him starting in Seattle because of the construct of the ballpark and how pitchers fare well there. But besides that, I think it just comes down to, you and I talked about this a lot in the last month, how I think it just comes down to, okay, who's the hottest guy? Who gives you the best chance to win? We're certainly seeing that in the other series where, the book is thrown out, all the niceties are thrown out. It all comes down to who gives you the best chance to win on a given day. And I would say, the Mariners are telling us that Brian Wu is going to start. You hope that's the case. You hope that he's okay, but he's going through a period where he's ramping up. And when he takes the mound, I'm sure I will be, feeling this way. You probably be feeling this way, that you got your fingers crossed a little bit and hope that he's okay.
Buster, we've seen the bullpen usage in the playoffs across the board be hyper aggressive. Brian Bayo pulled in the 3rd inning of your game last night. We saw the Tigers pull Casey Mize, I think, in the 4th in Game 2. That'll be the thing I'm curious about with Dan Wilson. How aggressive is he with the bullpen? Because I'll say the Mariners' strength is in their starting pitching, not their pen. So I actually think he'll go longer with the starters than we usually see.
100%. The question is, will he see an advantage in particular matchups? In other words, and I'm just pulling this out as an example, when you look at the Detroit Tigers, and that if that's who the Mariners are facing, when you have a left-handed hitting Green and you have a left-handed hitting Carpenter, would Dan Wilson be inclined to be aggressive to get a better matchup there? I think generally speaking, though, I think you're right. I think the Mariners are one of the teams, and the Yankees are one of the other teams who are like this, where they're going to lean on their starting pitchers a bit. Philadelphia Phillies are like that. The Dodgers are certainly like that. with all the bullpen issues that they've had.
You saw the Mariners in Houston, same as I did. It feels like there are 4 relievers that the Mariners really trust: Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Edward Bizardo, and Gabe Spire. Beyond that, they don't want to use anybody else if they don't have to. Leads me to this point. Munoz walked 2 batters in his final appearance against the Dodgers and gave up a game-winning double. Walked 2 and threw a wild pitch in the inter-squad scrimmage yesterday. Bizardo, 3 straight non-clean outings to end the regular season, gave up a homer in the inter-squad scrimmage yesterday. Should I be nervous about what the small sample sizes of the last week and a half are telling me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that, quite frankly, I think you can say yes across the board to just about every bullpen in baseball other than the Padres, and maybe Cleveland. Besides that, I mean, shoot, we just, we've seen the Yankees the last 2 days, and they finished up pretty well in their season in terms of how people were pitching. And Devin Williams, who didn't allow a run in his last 9 appearances in the regular season, goes to the mound. It's ball 1, ball 2, ball 3. Already there were murmurs in the crowd. I mean, that's the thing about bullpens, especially this time of year. The volatility is extraordinary. Could it be that the Mariners relievers are going to really benefit from these days off? Absolutely. Could they benefit from a structure? Once you get into the division series, you have a fair number of days off. You get regular rest. Could they benefit from that? Sure. But you also don't know for some of these guys how they're going to handle significant postseason adrenaline. That's always the X factor.
10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays when the Mariners need to have their postseason roster in for the wild card round, or for the division series, excuse me. Justin Hollander, their GM, indicated they're going to carry more position players than pitchers. He didn't give an exact number, but maybe 14 position players and 12 pitchers. Is that typical, Buster? I always thought it would be a 13-13 split, but I guess that's not what the M's are going to do, at least.
Well, and it just depends on sort of, what they, how they feel with the matchup going forward. It is interesting that in the postseason, you'll see teams, keep a guy on their roster who maybe they feel like, hey, he's going to help us out as a pinch runner. Maybe we want to pinch run for one of our catchers. Maybe we want to, have a left-handed pinch hitter in specifically. Or on the flip side, if you stack up your pitching staff, maybe you want that extra left-handed reliever. It's amazing, for example, in watching this series between the Red Sox and the Yankees, how many left-handed pitchers the Red Sox are carrying, because they know that is a vulnerability on the Yankee side. And I'm sure that that's exactly how the Mariners front office, Dan Wilson, are thinking, trying to think of specific matchups within the series where a player can help them exploit a vulnerability.
I know you're on a tight schedule today to get to Game 3. I will get you out of here quicker today on this more observation. Again, it's going to come out after the game is over, but I think most Mariners fans are really hoping that they see Cleveland and not Detroit. Even though Detroit's on the downslide, 1, they've got Skubal. And 2,
yes,
they've got lefties that the Mariners don't hit lefties particularly. They hit them okay, but it leads us to the Mitch Garver lineup, which we'd rather have the Dom Canzone lineup. Cleveland is almost exclusively righties, so most people want to see Cleveland.
And I personally think it's a pick your poison situation between those two teams. Look, I can make a case that, Detroit is a scary team, because on the day Skubal pitches, the Tigers can be the best team in baseball. Not only a team that can beat the Mariners, but they can beat anybody when you get a monster like that. Now, as you know, because of the way, the first round is playing out, it might not be Skubal until Game 2. So that mitigates some of that advantage. But Cleveland, on the other hand, I think has a deeper pitching staff. That would concern me if I were the Mariners.
Well, we will see what happens. It'll be Saturday afternoon at this point. Mariners and TBD in the division series. Buster, enjoy the finale of the wild card series. It's been a wild one in New York, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, Brady. Thank you so much.
All right, there he goes, Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, again with us every single Thursday. This time he joined me from New York. He was in his hotel room on his way to Yankee Stadium, which that game has just started right now. If you are watching us live, if you're watching or listening on the podcast after the fact, then you already know what happened. But the roster stuff, look, Buster, he thinks that the Tigers are – he thinks it's a pick your poison matchup. So he agrees with me that there are tough things about the Tigers, and he mentioned those lefties specifically in Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green. I want to end it with the talk on the roster because I think the roster stuff is very, very interesting. So let's go through this again. We did this exercise on Tuesday, but now that we know who the Mariners are playing, I think we can start to make some more informed opinions. Let's go with the assumption they're going to keep 14 position players on the roster. Cal Raleigh and Mitch Garver are 2. Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, Dom Canzone, Victor Robles, Luke Raley. That gets you to 7. So that's 7 position players out of 14. Josh Naylor is 8. Eugenio Suarez is 9. Jorge Polanco is 10. J.P. Crawford is 11. Now, I believe Miles Mastrobuoni is going to be on this team. That would be 12. I believe Leo Rivas is going to be on this team. That would be 13. He is a switch hitter. He is a, you know what? Let me back up. Let me stop it at J.P. Crawford. That made it to 11. Leo Rivas is going to be on this team. That is 12. Switch hitter, infielder. I just think Leo Rivas is on this team. He can run. Now the questions become down to, is Miles Mastrobuoni on the team? Is Harry Ford on the team? And do you want a pinch runner like Samad Taylor on the team? I think this team, now that they're playing the Tigers, has to bring Harry Ford on the roster. I think Harry Ford has to be on this roster. I told you, you're going to see a situation where you're going to bring Mitch Garver. You're going to have Mitch Garver start against Skubal because he's a lefty, and then you're going to pull him, and then you're going to wonder about the catcher position later if something happened to Cal Raleigh. Harry Ford has to be there. You're going to see A.J. Hinch go to his bullpen in the 4th and bring in a lefty, and you're going to have to go hit Garver, and then you're going to burn him on the bench, and you're going to need Harry Ford there. So in my opinion, Harry Ford is 13, and he has to be on this roster. He might not have needed to be on this roster if it was Cleveland. He does need to be on this roster with Detroit, with Skubal, and with the aggressive nature of their bullpenning. And then the final spot, Miles Mastrobuoni, a lefty, a veteran, a guy you know who has real positional flexibility, or Samad Taylor, a right-hander who can also maybe combat some of these lefties late, but more importantly, a guy who can run. That's the question to me. But it's those 3 for 2 spots as far as I'm concerned. Ford, Mastrobuoni, and Samad Taylor. I do not think that Cole Young will be on this roster. And I heard Ryan Divish say it earlier today. He's 3 for his last 59. They're not going to play him, so they might as well not have him on this roster. Doesn't mean he couldn't potentially be on an LCS roster, but I don't think he is on this roster. So, comment says, go Red Sox. Yes, I agree. Mariners fans should want the Yankees out. Speaking of out, I am out. I will see you in Seattle beginning tomorrow. Follow me on social media at Refuse to Lose Pod. That's at Refuse to Lose Pod. If you're going to be there, drop me a note. Drop me a DM on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter. Let me know you're going to be there. Would love to meet up with any of our listeners. We're going to have some special content coming out of the Division Series. We're going to have some live reactions coming out of the Division Series as well. So we will have plenty of stuff going on live from Seattle, myself and Taryn Co-Watch. I want to thank Buster Olney. I want to thank all of you. And as I said earlier, the best way you can help us, read our stuff. Mariners on Roundtable Sports. If you see Taryn or I share a link, click it, read it, share it yourself, tell a friend, and join the community. It is free. Everything we do here is free. In order to keep it free, we need your support. So read us, share us, join the community, interact with us, and we'll be, look, we love the new place. We love Roundtable. They're out here to kind of save what Taryn and I do and allow us to keep doing what we do. And we're grateful to them for that, grateful for the new partnership, and grateful to all of you who continue to support. As always, go M's. I would expect something on the podcast channel tomorrow after the Mariners workout. We do not even know what time that is yet, but I will be there, and I would expect us to have some content coming out of that. I got a couple ideas marinating. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you Saturday. We'll see you all weekend from Seattle here on the Refuse to Lose podcast. I'm Brady Farkas. As always, Taryn Co-Watch is, again, my partner in crime on the writing side. Thanks for the support. And as I said, go M's.